So in Halo 2, there's a challenge that I call the Great Gap, and it's so difficult that I don't think that anybody's ever even attempted it. So can I do it? Let's give it a shot! So this massive gap is located on the mission's sacred icon in Halo 2. It extends from one of these light walls to the other light wall and is thousands and thousands of feet across. And while this giant four-walled trench is an awe-inspiring sight to behold, none of it is actually intended to be part of the game. The only time you actually get to see this wall is when you're taking a gondola ride from one side to the other and then you proceed through the mission. After that, you don't ever see it again. Unfortunately, this section of the mission isn't actually accessible to players through normal means. And in order to cross the largest gap in the entire Halo franchise, you first have to ascend the wall where it's located. And the thing about this wall is, it's hundreds of feet in the air, it's completely outside of where players are supposed to be able to go, and even if you were to get on these walls, you would still have to navigate to the light section of it and then launch on a trajectory that's straight enough across the giant gap that you can land thousands and thousands of feet away. And did I mention there's a map barrier ceiling that's pretty low? So with all of these different obstacles stacked against us to complete this challenge, where would we even start? Well, we have to start with the gondola ride. This was going to be the key to pulling this off. So to get to the gondola section of this mission, we first have to play through the beginning parts, activating the pistons and going down the chutes. Now we don't need to do anything earlier in the mission, but eventually we will get to a room that houses a giant sentinel that you have to destroy in order to activate the gondola. My plan was to set up a massive explosive pile to launch to the top of the wall, but first, I would need to destroy the sentinel. Doing this would give me an automatic checkpoint. From here, I needed to get a stack of plasma grenades set up to give me the force needed to launch all the way to the top of the wall. In order to produce this grenade stack, I activated the Pinata Skull, which allows you to beat plasma grenades out of your teammates and enemies. On a separate computer, I had my second player stand in front of me and I hit 7 plasma grenades out of him and then shot them all into a nice neat little pile. So now that I had this Super Combine explosion set up, I still had a couple things I had to do. So for this actual grenade launch, what I need to do is throw a plasma grenade far enough behind the stack of plasma grenades that it doesn't actually affect me. What I want is for this plasma grenade stack to get pushed forward, and while it's about to explode, I will have already jumped from the opposite side of the grenade pile from the explosion, and if I did it right, the stack of plasma grenades would explode just inches below my feet. Now I'd also have to jump in the correct direction and at the correct height. Pulling this off was going to take a lot of precision. Regardless, I was in a spot that I thought was ideal for this, and I had my second player destroy all the plug locks that you have to deactivate in order to get the gondola going. Conveniently, this would also give me a checkpoint which I would use to replicate attempts over and over and over again. I tried a couple practice attempts to get the alignment right, and after I thought I was ready, I had my second player activate the gondola. Doing this would 1, give me an automatic checkpoint to be able to replicate attempts, and 2, open the door that I actually need to get past to launch to the wall. After about 10 minutes of attempting this, I had to go back to the drawing board. I was only living through the grenade explosion about 10% of the time. And then I realized I made a very crucial mistake. I didn't have the most important skull for this entire trick activated, the Black Eye Skull. Now, having the Black Eye Skull activated in Halo 2 gives you the ability to get double overshields from beating down enemies, items, or even your teammate. In order to live through a pile of grenades exploding 1 inch from under your feet, you would need to have at least 1 overshield. And I had none. So basically I had 2 options. Either I could kill my teammate 2 times every time I spawned and then try to get an attempt out, or I could just restart the mission and get a better setup. And I chose the latter. So this time, I made sure that I had more grenades than I had the previous time because distance was also an issue. I wasn't going very far with only 7 grenades. Additionally, I had my double overshields this time, so it was just down to execution. Oh, and also you might be asking yourself, why didn't I set up the grenades in a nice neat pile? Well, I didn't feel like it. That takes too much time. Come on. So very early into this, I was getting frustrated not because of the launch attempts, but because I had to wait on the gondola an entire 10 seconds before even throwing a grenade, so my rate of attempts was ridiculously slow. But I had to do this in order to get a clear shot right at the top of the wall. Having to wait every time for this is infuriating. Okay, I think I can actually make it up from here, but I'm gonna have to hurry. So the reason that I had to hurry in this situation is because the gondola activates a checkpoint automatically about halfway through its journey across the gap. I wanted to be in a position where I could actually set up and grenade launch to the upper part of the wall without having to walk over every single time. Boom! We're up. Okay. Now I just need to get over to one side of this gap. Okay, so I didn't realize there's actually a series of walls here. So I'm going to have to get past all of these because they're actually solid. Okay, I need my second player to die so that I can get over shields. Now that my second player had finished his gondola ride, which I will explain to you why that's important later, I had him die and come up so I could get double overshields from beating him down with a black eye skull. At this point, I knew that one singular grenade was not going to get me the height needed to get over this next section of the wall and onto my destination. Luckily for me, in Halo 2 there's a mechanic where you can throw 2 grenades at the same time. If you overcharge a Covenant weapon, and in this case a plasma pistol, you can mash the grenade button on the cooldown if you time it right, and you'll throw 2 grenades at the same time back to back. There we go. I can't see shit. Is there like a better way to see this in the old graphics? You can see the entire map design. So now that I had conquered these smaller walls on top of this large wall, I now needed to walk all the way to the light wall. But even getting here was a hike. It took me 3 minutes of walking. Okay, so I have no idea where I'm actually going, but at this point, I probably have already explained this by now, but from that wall to that wall, that's the goal. Where does this wall end, though? I'm assuming it's just the same as the other side. Okay, I probably should be good to drop down now. I'm still walking. That is much further. Much further than it looks. So now that I was at the light wall, I was finally ready to get everything set up. I was going to use the same method that I used to launch off the gondola earlier, but this time I was going to need a lot more power. Realistically, I would probably need 100 to 200 grenades stacked in a pile. But I also needed to find a good place to set this up, and I determined that the lowest spot on the light wall was probably going to give me the highest % chance of not hitting the map ceiling when launching across. I knew this was going to be a major problem. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to set my grenades up like right here. This is the lowest part of this. If I just set up a giant pile of plasma grenades, like, I don't know, 100, 150, 200, I might be able to get across that gap, but I have to worry about the map ceiling because it's so far away. So when I was doing the gondola launch to get up to the first initial wall, I used the pinata skull to haphazardly hit grenades out of my second teammate while not stacking them in a nice neat pile. Well, that's not as realistic when you need 100 to 200 grenades to pull this off. I needed the grenade pile to be somewhat predictable, and if I used a scattered pile, there's no telling where it would go, how high it would go, where it would explode, or if it would even work out. But that would mean that I would have to move hundreds of plasma grenades into the same spot using only a plasma pistol alone. And did I mention I was doing this by myself? So I didn't have anybody to help me move these. So I formulated a system where consistency was key. I wanted to get this plasma grenade stack set up roughly where the slanted wall meets the flat wall that I'm standing on. With my first player, I stood in the same exact spot, unmoving for the entire time. I did this because I wanted the grenades coming out of my teammate when I hit him with the pinata skull to be consistent and roughly in the same area. After about 15 minutes of hitting grenades out of my teammate's ass, I was finally ready to get this scattered pile into a nice, neat new pile. But there's one weird thing about Halo 2. Even if you're in proximity of weapons and grenades, they will disappear if you are not in the field of view looking at them. So I needed to have my second player staring at this pile at all times. So when I was hitting all those hundreds of grenades out of my teammate earlier, I found that the plasma grenades generally went in one of two piles. So what you're seeing here is a sped up version of me creating the first pile and then taking the messy scattered pile and combining it with that nice neat pile. I wanted to give you guys some perspective on just how long it takes to move these grenades because it can take an insanely long time. After about 15 minutes, my grenade pile was nearly finished. I just had to put some finishing touches on it. But then I realized that I didn't have double overshields and I would need that for later, so I decided to take a quick interjection and get double overshields from my teammate. And then I made a horrible mistake. I looked out of the field of view of the grenades and about half of them disappeared. At least that was my estimation. But there was kind of a silver lining with this. I didn't have to organize the rest of the grenades that weren't in the nice neat pile. The outcasts pretty much disappeared, so getting this set up was a lot faster. But I would still need to hit more grenades out of my teammate and get them set up in the pile because I just lost like 70 grenades. I hit about 25 plasma grenades out of my teammate and merged these into the existing pile. To be completely honest, I didn't want to have to set up 70 more grenades. I had done this once before and I wasn't even close to making the gap. So realistically, I didn't expect to make this. Although I didn't expect to make this, I was still extremely determined to pull this off. I had my second player backtrack the way that I came in, all the way down to the gondola where it was resting. Because I had my grenade set up, I needed to get several checkpoints. I didn't include this because I didn't think it added value to the video, but I used the Black Eye Skull to get double overshields for the second player while he was backtracking into the map so that he could make multiple grenade jumps without dying. If you're wondering how I'm not dying to fall timer, well, I enabled the Acrophobia skull, which if you double jump, it allows you to fly, but otherwise, it just eliminates your fall timer. Now, I wasn't using the flying ability of this skull for this trick, but if anybody still works at 343 Industries and happens to be watching this video, please put a skull into Halo MCC that eliminates fall timer only. I'm trying my best to keep your franchise relevant. Help me out. Anyways, I got the checkpoint that I needed for my first player, and I'm sick of talking about the setup, so let's get into the actual attempts. Yeah, this one's hard. At first, I was having some trouble throwing the trigger grenade in a good location behind the grenade pile. Basically, I needed the grenade explosion to happen as my feet were just inches above the ground. This would give me the straightest possible trajectory and therefore the highest possible chance of actually being able to pull this off. And after just a couple minutes and a handful of attempts, I was able to get the rhythm and feel of throwing the grenade and where I would need to jump when it was exploding. Damn. Keep badoinking it. After around 30 minutes of attempting this, I got one of two results. Either I hit the map ceiling almost immediately, or I went the wrong direction entirely. The problem with this launch is the ceiling's kind of low, and I need to get the distance required without hitting the ceiling, because when you hit stuff in Halo 2, you instantly stop. In Halo 3, if you're traveling rapid speeds and you bounce off a slanted wall or something, you'll bounce. But in Halo 2, that is not the case at all. You just basically completely stop. It's like advanced physics doing this. Like this one. Going decently fast, but going too slanted. Ah. Sick. But not close. But kinda, but not. Not quite. This one's gonna be close. Yeah, I'm not making it. We bring the boom. See, like this one. A good one. I avoided the ceiling, but now I'm not going fast enough. Bounce. Didn't bounce. Doesn't count. Ooh. It's like Rainbow Road. It actually looks a lot worse in the anniversary graphics, in my opinion. Where's the cool shield at? Oh, I guess it is there. It's so much nicer. Color grading is so much better. At this point, I was pretty much ready to call it quits. I didn't expect to get the right height, direction, speed, and trajectory all in one. All of those elements would have had to have been in perfect harmony at the exact same time for me to actually pull this off. And after multiple hours, I knew this just wasn't going to happen. So this would be the first challenge I've ever failed on video. Psych! Oh, it's going to be really close. Really, really close. Boom! That's right, baby! Hell yeah! Let's go! Woo-wee! Bro, walking out here is crazy. I mean, there is no map where you can see more than this map. And this map is freaking huge. Is that the beginning of the mission? The blue part? I'm pretty sure that is. I don't know if I can show that on YouTube. We're just gonna walk past that. We're just gonna ignore that for now.